It is the great mystery. What lies in death, in all its shrouded darkness? Is there an inextricable part of us that survives passage into the void? And is there a substance to it? Ancient stories tell of ghosts and terrifying specters just beyond the threshold of material existence. Let's journey deeper into these esoteric ideas in and around the etheric plane. Could there be something to the phenomenon known as ghosts and apparitions? A 2019 poll showed that 46% of Americans say that they truly believe in ghosts, and ghost stories being wildly popular on Reddit. Thousands of stories being shared on the site every day, adding even more to this ancient mythos. If the dead are truly among us, then what can science tell us about what's happening in the mind at the point of death? For the first time ever, scientists have measured precise brain activity of a dying subject, and it happened completely by accident, and the researchers could not believe what they saw. Electrodes were placed on a patient's head for what was supposed to be a sleep study. Unfortunately, he had a heart attack and died during the measurements of his brain activity. But bizarrely, before, during, and for 30 seconds after expiring, his brain began to emit large amounts of gamma waves, which are usually detectable during viewing old memories of past events of our life in photos or concentrating on them. The man's brain seems to have been reliving his memories as he crossed over. The data collected can't be denied, but should the results be treated as something purely scientific or something spiritual? So there now seems to be at least some scientific backing behind the old motif of one's life flashing before their eyes. But what about the soul? In order to even ask about this idea, let's first define what we're even talking about. The soul is defined as the immaterial aspect or essence of a human being. Christian belief holds that at the point of death, the soul is judged by God and sent to either heavenly or hellish realms of existence. But a long-held debate has been going on in Christianity on the origins of the soul. According to soul creationism, God creates each individual soul directly at the moment of conception. But traducianism claims that the soul comes from the parents by natural generation. And then there is the pre-existence theory, where the soul exists before the moment of conception. In the 4th and 5th centuries AD, Augustine, one of Western Christianity's most influential thinkers, described the soul as a special substance endowed with reason and adapted to rule the body. Christians typically espouse a trichotomic view of humans characterized by 3 parts: body, or soma, soul, psyche, and spirit, or pneuma. But many Bible scholars point out that many biblical passages use spirit and soul interchangeably, so then hold to more of a dichotomy, just body and soul. Is it more of just an inner essence, something more impersonal? Like in Hinduism, we have the Sanskrit word Atman, meaning inner self or soul. Hindu philosophy teaches that Atman is the first principle, the true self, and the essence of the individual. And this doctrine espouses that all living beings have this essence. In Jewish mysticism, the soul is divided into 5 parts. The Kabbalah components of the soul consist of Nephesh, related to natural instinct; Ruach, relating to the intellect and awareness of God; Neshama, related to emotion and morality; Chaya, considered a part of God; and Yakaida. This aspect is essentially one with God, according to the Kabbalists. The explosion of these modern mystical ideas can be traced back to the 19th century. Fortune tellers and seance holders became commonplace. Teachers and supposed prophets were bringing back ancient occult knowledge through contact with demons and the dead. One of the most prominent was Helena Blavatsky. She taught that the universe contained a substance composed of astral light called ether. And occultists had various methods of psychically controlling and manipulating this ether material. And even scientists of the time took this mystical substance seriously and experimented to uncover its secrets. Blavatsky created her own occult religion called Theosophy. And according to her, the soul is the field of our psychological activity, thinking, emotions, memory, desires, will, etc., as well as the so-called paranormal or psychic phenomena, such as extrasensory perception or out-of-body experiences. However, according to Blavatsky, the soul is not the highest, but a middle dimension of human beings. Above the soul was the spirit, which is considered to be the real self, the source of everything we call good: happiness, wisdom, love, compassion, harmony, peace. The soul is basically a middleman between spirit and body, playing out a battle between good, or ethereal, and evil, the material or lower world. Now, all these beliefs tend to point to the idea of a soul being trapped in the body. But is there a way for it to leave or even escape? In the phenomenon known as astral projection, or astral travel, or soul travel, the term is used in esotericism to describe an intentional out-of-body experience that assumes the existence of a subtle body called an astral body, through which consciousness can function separately from the physical body and travel throughout the astral plane. Being a very ancient idea, it spread across multiple cultures over time. And in modern terminology, astral projection was coined and promoted by 19th century theosophists. This experience probably sounds familiar because it's associated with dreams, meditation, drugs, and hypnosis. And all of these can transport you, reportedly, to this nether world. So what exactly is this astral plane that they refer to? It's known by parapsychologists and believers as a plane of existence, postulated by classical, medieval, oriental, and esoteric philosophies and mystery religions. It's the world of the celestial spheres, crossed by the soul and its astral body on the way to being born after death, believed to be populated by angels, spirits, or other immaterial beings. There's even a newly found spiritual movement based on reaching this place. If you've ever seen those weird late-night commercials on Ekinar and soul travel, then you know what I'm talking about. It was founded by Paul Twitchell in 1965 and has since gone global in Europe, Asia, and Africa. And its beliefs mostly draw from Sikh and Hindu religions. One of the basic tenets is that the soul or true self may be experienced separate from the physical body, and in full consciousness, travel freely in other planes of reality. According to them, that astral travel and soul travel are the essential spiritual experiences to bring you closer to God. And often, dream travel acts as a precursor to soul travel. With all these planes of existence seemingly winding in and around and even through our physical world, it's no wonder myths and folk tales of apparitions appearing to the horror of the living realm flood even our modern ethos. If there is any truth to these tales of phantasmagoric contact with spirits or ghosts, wouldn't they leave some type of physical trace behind? There is always a discussion on whether or not the soul has actual material mass or is purely ethereal or spirit. But what if it could somehow materialize into a physical substance with psychic properties? In 1894, psychical researcher Charles Richet claimed to have discovered just such a substance that he called ectoplasm. He and other spiritualists insisted that during a seance or trance, the psychic medium would excrete a clear, gooey substance from bodily orifices, and that when spiritual entities chose to appear to people, that they would drape themselves in this substance over their non-physical body, enabling them to interact in the physical universe. Reportedly, ectoplasm begins clear, almost translucent, but darkens and becomes visible as the psychic energy increases. And if you've ever seen either Ghostbusters movie, this is the clear, slimy substance that ghosts leave behind when touching people or objects. And in Ghostbusters 2, it was a pink, psychoactive, mood-absorbing residue, feeding off of human emotion, empowering the energy of the villain. Dan Aykroyd himself wrote much of both movies, and came from a family line of spiritualists who were fascinated with contact with the spiritual dimension. But despite the tenacity of its believers, ectoplasm has never been scientifically measured or even proven to exist. But it's an interesting motif in bridging the material world with the spirit, a mysterious legend of the residual effect of the eternal soul world touching the living. If you ever encounter a spook, specter, or ghost, there's no telling what it is, let alone if it's human. Many questions remain about our spirit, but thank you for spending some time with me to explore some of them. If you want more on the soul and haven't checked out my video on soul transfer and consciousness uploading, click here. Or check out any of my others on a plethora of subjects. I'll see you guys soon.